All right, and now we have a series. The Colorado Avalanche and St. Louis Blues are now tied at 1 game apiece, and you knew it would be. The Avs, not their best game. I think we can all admit that. But despite that, they did have some opportunities, and we saw glimpses of what they were doing in game 1. They just couldn't sustain it. So Kyle and I will break this entire thing down, and if it couldn't get any worse for yesterday with the Avs' first loss, another award came, and an Avalanche was not on the last ballot. So we'll talk about that too. Here we go.
You're Locked On Avalanche, your daily podcast on the Colorado Avalanche. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, Avalanche Nation, welcome to another episode of Locked On Avalanche, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Chris Maselli. With me, as always, Mr. Shaggy Von Doom, Kyle Sullivan. Thank you for making this your first listen of the day. That's always appreciated. Follow the show on social media outlets, LOPN_Avalanche on Twitter, Locked On Avalanche on Instagram. Questions, comments, concerns, opinions, lockedonavalanche@gmail.com. And follow us over on our YouTube channel over on YouTube. Hit subscribe and get notified when a new show goes live. All right, you knew the Avs were not going to skate through this thing 16-0. But I think you wanted a better performance for their first loss, at least. And as I'm saying that out loud, maybe I don't. Maybe I'd rather a stinker, because when you lose and you play well, like if the Avs had lost game 1, that would have been just so demoralizing. But this one was not their best performance. We have to call it like it is. You saw, like I said, you saw glimpses of it. And you thought when that happened, when they would have a really good shift, you're like, okay, this is where it starts. This is where it starts, where we play that for the rest of the game. But it just didn't happen. So they lose this one 4-1 to St. Louis. Now we're tied, and now it goes back to St. Louis for a couple games. And we'll see what the Avs can do to make adjustments, because the Blues made a ton of them.
Yeah, and to your point of eventually having a stinker game, like this was admittedly the worst game of the playoffs, like bar none. You hoped it would be in St. Louis, though. The last thing you want is to have a stinker game in Ball Arena, take the whole series to St. Louis, give them the momentum, and give them the idea that, hey, we can beat them. We just beat them. Maybe steal 1 or 2 at home, and then come back to Ball Arena with like a 3-1 deficit.
Yeah.
You had the opportunity at worst split it.
If you're going to lose one at home, you don't want to, obviously, clearly. If you're going to lose one at home, I know it sounds maybe like reverse psychology, but maybe you lose the first one, because if you win the second one, then you have the momentum going. Now It's all Blues have it. Blues are feeling really good. They would feel really good splitting the series no matter which game they won, because now they've turned home ice to them. But yeah, I mean, just everything about this just leaves a bad taste in your mouth. And I don't see it lasting, because I think the Avs have done very well at turning around a loss, save for the end of the season when they lost 6 out of their last 7 or something like that.
Everything.
Yeah, and that was a different time of the year, and they had things locked up by them. But remove that, and anytime the Avs lost, they really turned around their game. I don't want to sit here and say this was from top to bottom horrific. I like that. To me, is saved for their game against like Boston. That game that was in, that was atrocious from beginning to end. This was, you had moments of that they were good, but like I said before, it just didn't sustain. They couldn't build on anything. They would have a really good shift up and down the lineup. They would have good shifts. I think all 4 lineups at least once had a really good shift, and it just didn't carry over into the next shift that took the ice. It was just a frustrating game. And you know what, man? Like, you have to give St. Louis credit for that.
Mm-hmm.
This is not just the Avs go out there and do whatever they want to do and the other team just sits back and takes it. No, the Blues got ran on game one. The score didn't show that, but they did, and they know it. So they turned it around. They gave the Avs no time and space. They were really good defensively, which is a little surprising because that's where we were talking about multiple times that they beat their Achilles heel. And, even though the Avs, they get shots on goal, 31.
32 to 31.
All right, so about even. So they were getting shots on goal. It was just a struggle to maintain anything throughout this game. And I think that's where the frustration is.
And coming out of the second period, you're down 2-0, and you realize, okay, we have to do something now. And it only took 2 minutes into the third period to cut that lead in half.
Right.
And you felt good. Like, okay, here we go. This is what you want. And then it was taken away. The thing I missed the most in this game was sitting there and living in the offensive zone. Everybody wants to complain about the missed calls and how the refs swallow their whistle. With how the power play has been looking, do you really want to kill 2 minutes of time, especially deeper in that game? Did you really want those calls being called? And then you waste your hope on a power play. Nothing looked good from the Avalanche. Yes, there were bright spots, like you saw Mikko a little bit, La Tornade from Sammy G, and him cycling all the way around the net. That came back. But as in putting a full game together, there was none of that. And it was a dump and chase fest. It was just a bad look on the Avalanche. And it's a game they deserve to lose. But in the place in the series, you really just don't want to lose game two and then have St. Louis having a party all the way back. And then you hear Gloria 1,000 times when you play game three. It's not an ideal place to lose, but the Avalanche have proven they can climb out of holes like this and they can get back to the Avalanche way of playing. But this is just not a great game and not a good look and not a good time.
Yeah. And I mean, if you're going to have a bad game, and if you have one bad game, if they play this out through the remainder of the postseason, if they go far, you play one bad game every 6 games, I'll take that.
Yep.
As a fan, you don't want to sit back and watch that. And I can guarantee you they don't want to be playing them. I think Nathan McKinnon even said, let me see. Who we got here? Jared Bednar says it's 1 loss. The series isn't over. It's not close to being over, not for us and not for them. Jared Bednar didn't have a problem. Wow. Did not have a problem with the goaltender interference call on Valenchushkin. I massively did. I don't know why. This is all coming from Peter Ball, by the way, from The Athletic. We'll talk about that in a minute.
Yeah.
But Nathan McKinnon said, where did it go? I just had it. I mean, he basically said we stunk tonight. We played bad tonight.
Agreed.
Yeah. I mean, and you don't have to sugarcoat it. You don't have to try to come up with things like they did well. They did do some things well. This was, like I said, this was not Boston. It wasn't Boston. It was, you didn't have, like, your passing wasn't crisp. Like in the beginning, like when you're getting those rushes into the zone and you had the few clean zone entries that you had, and then you pass the puck to the side or to the back, like those passes should be right on the tape, and they weren't. They were behind the guy. They were into his skate. Like everything just was a millisecond off. And St. Louis was the total opposite. St. Louis played a full game.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and when you had that first period and you get down 2-0, even then you're like, again, like I said the other day, like when the Avs get down early, they're okay. They feel like they can just play their game and they'll crawl back into it. And they did with the Landeskog goal that was on a power play, but then they gave up one. And that is St. Louis just, bearing down, not playing on their heels and saying, no, we're going to go get another one. We're not going to let you get another one. We were going to go get another one. And they obviously got 2 with the empty netter, but it's just one of those frustrating games that you have to let go. You got to let go of it. And I think the Avs will definitely do that.
They have to, and you really hope they don't dwell on this or take anything away from this game, because this game was easily one of their worst.
Yeah, it was. So we'll talk about individual players and definitely that Valnichuskin penalty that was called on him. I read that Bednar comment for the first time as I'm reading it out loud. I'm not sure why he's okay with that. I
have an idea.
That made the game. It really made the game for the Blues. So we'll talk about that here in a second. So
all right,
hold your thoughts.
Let's go.
But first, we're going to talk about Built Bar and the new Built Bar brownie batter puffs. So you know what? And I want to back up and talk about the birthday cake ones because I'm like, I have to at least try this thing. I know I don't like marshmallows. And the funny thing is, like, my wife's birthday was a couple weeks ago, and at work they missed her birthday, so they gave her like so these people made these like ginormous marshmallows with some treats on them. I'm like, I'm not touching that, but I'll try a puff. I'll try a Built Bar puff in the birthday one. And for a guy that doesn't like marshmallows, I have to say they're good.
I'm telling you.
I don't think I can't like just knock them back like you do. Like, you know, they're sleeves of Fig Newtons. But they are very good. I have to, and that's the best thing about Built Bar is even, you know what else I don't like is toffee. I'm not a toffee fan, but the toffee flavored Built Bar, I can eat that bad boy.
See, I'm not a coconut fan, and their coconut Built Bar, it's one of my top 5.
We got a listener that I can't remember her name, and she's gonna kill me. She knows I'm probably talking about it right now too, because we put that up there, and she said that I hate coconut, and I like coconut. So, but there you go. That's proof positive right there. Even things that you don't like, you can get in a Built Bar and enjoy it. And most Built Bars are actually all Built Bars are covered in 100% real chocolate. That means that with Built Bar, you can eat healthy and actually enjoy doing it. Most have 140 calories, 16 grams of protein, 7 grams of sugar, and the brownie batter puffs have 17 grams of protein and 8 grams of sugar. So you can go to built.com, use the promo code LOCKED15, get 15% off of your order. Once again, that promo code is LOCKED15 for 15% off at built.com. Let's talk about the Valnichuskin penalty because I hated it. I absolutely hated it. I don't know, like, if, you know, I'm sure most people listening to this watched the game, but for whatever reason, if you didn't, I think they were on a penalty kill on that, were they not? Or am I mistaken on that?
No, because that went on 5-on-3.
That was the 5-on-3 when he had that?
I think that's why we went. I mean, St. Louis
that's why we went on 5-on-3. You're right.
Yeah.
Right. Yes. So we were on the power play, or we were on the penalty kill. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And, you know, he just knocked the puck away and he went and got it. And he's wrestling with, I don't think it was Braden Shen. I can't remember exactly who it was, but he was wrestling with somebody.
Yeah.
And right up until they got to Jordan Binnington. And because of that physicality, because he's muscling and wrestling with the St. Louis Blues defender, he gets carried into the goaltender and they call him for interference. And number one, that's a bad call because how is he supposed to stop right there when he has a guy all over him? And two, Jordan Binnington looked like someone shot him.
Yeah.
And I mean, if you're going to call anything, where's the embellishment on that? So, I mean, all the other calls in the game I was okay with. Sure, they missed a few. I think that's going to happen in any game. But that one I thought was so blatantly bad. And then you give St. Louis a 5-on-3. I was really hoping the Avalanche would kill that because nothing gets a fan base going and a crowd going than killing a 5-on-3 penalty. But they couldn't do it.
You know, I get what you're saying about the penalty. Mm-hmm. And we were talking about it in the Locked On Avalanche Twitter space. And I think it might be because we had like some Blues fans visit the Twitter space and I had a galaxy brain about it. I don't know if I hated the call. Mm-hmm. Because if that happened to Darcy Kemper and he had that same, we were trying to absolutely kill Johansson for putting a stick in Kemper's eye and no penalty coming away from it. And we were ready to torch the league. Mm-hmm. And nothing came of that. And if that same exact play happened and the sweaters were changed, we would be just as furious as St. Louis on if that wasn't called. And I think that's the same reason that Bednar reacted the way he did in his press conference. On he didn't hate it because he would like that call as well. I just feel like it's one of those that it's 50-50. You want them to call that, especially with them swallowing the whistle, and all game long there were trips, there were holds, there were high sticks that weren't called. If you had a chance to get a call, that would be the area you want it, because especially you value the goalie the most because you don't want that situation to happen again. I didn't hate it as much as many of the other Avalanche fans do.
I know they like to protect goalies like their quarterbacks, and rightfully so. They're in a vulnerable spot. They're in a vulnerable position most of the time. But for me, it's put yourself in Val Nichushkin's shoes. At what point is he supposed to avoid a goalie when he is wrestling with another guy? That's and I understand what you're saying about how would we feel. And I'm not going to play like a Monday morning quarterback type of thing, but that's not me. I'm not built. And I think like both of us throughout the course of this show, or you can go right back to the thing that you referenced with Darcy Kemper and the stick in his, we were not thinking that was intentional. And there's a large part of the fan base that was.
Yeah.
If that did happen to Darcy Kemper, I'm pretty confident I would look at that objectively and say, where is that guy supposed to stop? Freeze the frame where he is supposed to stop. And you can't play it in slow-mo because the game doesn't happen in slow motion.
No.
You have to play that in real speed. And at what point is Val Nichushkin supposed to stop on a dime when a guy is hanging over him? I shouldn't say that. Not hanging over him, battling for position, and avoid contact with a goalie. If for that specific play, it's just not going to happen.
And the thing that bothered me the most about that was Val Nichushkin on a penalty kill committing to that and trying to make a shorthanded play. I would much rather LOC or one of our quicker skaters, because if that goes south, they're going the opposite way on you in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
And Nuke is not the guy you want back there. And they call him like the choo-choo train for a reason. And if you're in that position, it's hard for him to get, like, he's a big guy. It's hard for him to stop. So if you're going to make that move, it's not going to be one of those lighter guys that you could just kind of push off the puck. And they could do some kind of twirly-whirly deal to get out of that. Nuke, you got to, it takes a minute to get him stopped. And it's a bad positioning. And I just didn't like him being there in the first place, is what I'm trying to get at. I didn't like for him to even be in the spot for that penalty to be called. I didn't like that at all. And I don't think Bednar did either.
You mentioned Logan O'Connor. And like we said, like this is going to be a chess match back and forth. Now we'll see the moves the Avalanche make. Are roster moves part of it? Because you've struggled. It's so weird because you've struggled to score. In game one, you threw 50 some odd shots on net and you scored a couple goals, 3 goals, right? 3-2 it was. So,
yeah.
And in this game you got 1. So you need more scoring. Do you bring in Alex Newhook now? Is this where you bring him in? You mentioned Logan O'Connor, who's not performing up to standard right now on the bottom 6, where you would bring him in. Is somebody not performing as well where you would say, like, I think O'Connor can play better than X player? For me, like, I think you would bring in Newhook because you do need some scoring. I think now is the time. You can put him on a bottom 6. The top 6 is playing well overall. Yeah, they didn't. This game is whatever. Like, you can pick apart everybody on the team for this game, but overall, do you do that? Are those the moves you make? Roster moves?
That same topic was brought up, but in the phrasing of the lines, putting the big 3 back together. Because of
they did.
And I brought up because JJ brought it up, and what are the first series against Nashville? There was no complaints, not a single complaint with anything on how it was going.
Mm-hmm.
We kept the line split. Everything was fine. We were fine with everybody on the ice. We were all fine just saying, new hook, you stay on the bench. You don't fix what's not broken.
Mm-hmm.
Game 1, we were still feeling great about this Avalanche team. Game 2, Darcy Kemper was bad. Mark it down. Darcy Kemper was bad. All of his beats were bad. He had that dribbler under the glove that I don't think I'm ever going to forget.
Well, the one that was like Sammy G was on defense and it kind of went off of his stick. That was a little bit deflected, tough to see. That was the only one where I was like, okay, I get that one. The one that who got it? David Perron. In the third when Landeskog cut it 2-1 and then they went up 3-1. It was a 2-on-1 rush. Like that one, he's got to stop.
Yeah,
he's got to stop that one, and it hit his glove. But whatever.
And what matters? When are we pressing the panic button here, and why are we? Is like the Predator series, we had 0 complaints. Now, after we lose a game, we're automatically putting the lines back, like three-headed monster at the top. We're calling for new hook. Darcy shaky.
So should we be doing that though? I mean, it's a loss. It's a loss. It's one loss. You've won 5 in a row, and then you lost one. Do you? I don't want to say blow it up, but do you make those little adjustments? Are the adjustments roster adjustments, or are the adjustments just in a style of play? And keep
that's
what you have going.
That's exactly what I was getting at. Nathan McKinnon scored in all 4 games of the Predator series. He hasn't scored yet. Mm-hmm. You haven't got Mikko on the board. Like, you're not getting the effort. You're not getting the effort from the three-headed monster you want to put together. Gabe scored tonight or last night, but that's it. Like,
yeah, but he's looking good, man. Gabe
he's looking great.
Looking really, really good. He's playing his heart out. And I'm not saying other guys aren't. But Mikko Rantanen has to get going. Like, this has to end, man. Like, this, like, I just watch him, and he just looks like he's, like, lollygagging around, and he has that way about him. I'm not seeing him force any issue. Nothing. Like, and that's in wins, too. Mm-hmm. And like you said, like, when we're winning, like, you kind of forgive that stuff. Now it's unforgivable. Like, his motor has to get kicked into gear here. And it's so noticeable out on the ice. But I like that they don't put, and I wouldn't do it for game 3. I would leave Gabe Landeskog on line 2. Mm-hmm. I would leave him there because you can do stuff like this. When you need a jump start, you can move him up. I love having that in your back pocket. And if things are going fine with him on the second line, which for most of the playoffs they have, you leave him there because, you know, Nuke can hang on the top line. He's fine doing that. So, but my eyes are squarely on Mikko Rantanen. Where are you, dude? Like, you are one of our superstars, and he's just not playing with it. He's invisible out there.
He had the breakout, and instead of taking the shot, he passed it one more time, and no goals came from it.
I mean, he got an assist, and it was, you know, but that was on the Gabe Landeskog goal where Landeskog, in a sense, passed it to himself.
Yep.
So it really, I mean, it's the primary assist, but there's got to be an asterisk next to that because it's not really the primary assist. It was Landeskog passing it off of defender, went right back to him. I don't know. That's kind of just me ranting on him. So we'll see, though. I don't know. I don't know if anybody's like going to hit the panic button and just say, all right, we got to now bring in New Hook and we got to bring in Logan O'Connor because we lost one game. And you saw that comment that I just read by Bednar, and that's basically what he was saying because it's one game. This thing isn't over.
Yeah. I'm saying it's worked to this. I'm saying it's worked to this point. Why is it not working now? That's where the question is. It's not change. It's get to the center of why it's not working now and address that.
So some people are obviously not happy with Bednar. They didn't feel like he made some or did not make changes during the game. But nonetheless, the Avalanche still had a fantastic season, obviously. And he was not nominated once again for Coach of the Year. Is that a flub by the NHL? So we'll talk about that and our sound check. I think we have some good ones today. So let's hear from BetOnline first, and then we'll get to all that. Our partners over at BetOnline continue to be the #1 source for all of your betting needs and sports info. You can find all of the latest odds, news, and sports developments, including this year's basketball playoffs, the Major League Baseball scores, all of the fights, and even the next season NFL futures. BetOnline is your continued source for all your sporting wagering information, from live betting to the playoffs to esports and more. You can head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and the action. That is betonline.net, where the game starts. All right, our sound check for the day. If you are new to the podcast, Kyle and I pick a song from our vast array of knowledge of music and that we bestow upon you. One song that we feel best summarizes the most recent game, obviously wins or losses. And you can follow this set list or playlist over on Spotify. Just search LOPN Soundcheck. And whenever a game is over and we share with you our selections, they go right on that playlist. So what do you got for today, my friend?
Easy enough. Billy Joel, We Didn't Start the Fire, because we sure didn't.
That's it's frustrating. It's a good. Do you know like the lyric of that song, like what it's about?
Not starting a fire?
Well, no. It's so he's just like rattling off all these things like one after the other, like really like real fast, like lyrically. It starts the year he was born. So I don't know, say 1950 he was born in. And it goes he takes like one or two big things that happen in those years and every year after that. So it starts in like 1950 and then it goes chronologically. Every line in the song starts in 1950, then 1951, then 1952, and it's all big events in the world that happened since he's been alive. Pretty interesting. That's a man who can write. Yeah.
Never doubted that man for a second.
No. So he's one of my favorites. It's a good one. Yeah. There was no fire. There was
zero.
It wasn't there. And there were smoldering embers.
Yeah.
Because you saw it. But
it didn't get started.
And then just, they get doused with water. So
yep.
For me, I have another genius songwriter right here for you. I went with Weird Al Yankovic. I Can't Watch This. Which is a spoof on MC Hammer's You Can't Touch This. And the lyric is perfect, but
yeah. That's what great pull, man.
One of his classic albums. That was off the I don't remember the name of Off the Deep End, I think it was. It was the Nirvana.
Off
the
Deep
Nirvana
End.
one. Yeah. It was just when you play like that and you get your first loss of the postseason, 6 games in, you want to shut it off and you don't want to watch it, but that's where we're at. All right, go follow that and listen to those. And I wanted to bring some levity to the situation, throw out some Weird Al, laugh, maybe have, enjoy get back to like some normalcy and have some fun. It's not all doom and gloom. But we also do have to talk about Jared Bednar not getting a final nominee spot for the Jack Adams Award yet again. And I was going to wait to talk about this to see if Joe Sakic, if he gets shunned again for the GM award, which would be the travesty of all travesties, if you ask me. But we just have to talk about this because I don't know, like everything that's happening or everything that's happened for the Avalanche ever since he took over. There's other guys that have won the award for everything that he has done.
Yeah.
and he's not winning it. He's been nominated, but he didn't win it, and he didn't win it because Vegas was an expansion team, which wasn't even an expansion team. Now, when you look back on it, all the guys that they had,
They're already two coaches from that, one coach.
Yeah, so I mean, like nowhere along the way have they ever been given any due for what they have created, Bednar or Joe Sakic. So what you're saying is we're not going to award you for creating what you've created, and now we're not going to award you because you've created it, and now you're at the top of the heap, and now we're going to give it to guys who are like doing what Joe Sakic and Jared Bednar have already done, and they haven't won it. What gives here? It's a head scratcher to me. I'm sorry.
It has to be something with East Coast voting, just kind of accepting the Avalanche as a good team and just saying, well, anybody could coach that team or anybody could run that team.
No, they can't.
I don't understand. Honestly, it's a head scratcher, and like to not even be up there in the running, it's laughable.
Yeah, I don't get it. And I hate that argument. Like, oh well, they're stacked. You have to coach that. You have to coach talent. You have to coach ego, and not a lot of coaches can do that in any sport. It's very tough to do that. So
there's a difference in Colorado and Edmonton because of that.
Yeah, but so like he's getting the best out of those players.
Yeah,
and just because you have talent on the team, what has that gotten the Avalanche yet? Hasn't gotten them a Stanley Cup. Hasn't got anything past the second round.
President's Trophy.
But we're with President's Trophy. That's regular season. That's what you're voting on. You're not voting on, what's happening in the postseason. And he has gotten them with that talent. Just because you have the talent doesn't automatically mean you win anything. And you bring up the Edmonton example. That's a good example. They've gone through coaches. I don't know.
And
I can't figure it out. I don't know why he doesn't get his just due.
And with what the Avalanche put together in January, that alone should put you in that just get you nominated in the conversation. Like putting together an overtime loss in January is the only blemish. Come on. Name me another team that's done that.
And so you had Andrew Bennett on Florida. And why are you? I'm not saying he shouldn't be nominated, but look at the comparisons. Like, what are you giving it to him for? Because of the President's Trophy? The Avalanche were President's Trophy last year, and I don't think Bednar wasn't even in the conversation then. Are you giving it to him because he took over the team after they lost their coach?
2018.
So he's inheriting a team that's already good. Okay. I don't.
2018 when Bednar took over for Waugh. And it was the year where he rebounded after that abysmal season. Where is that same award?
And that's what they're saying with Daryl Suter is that he took a team that's, missed the playoffs and now they're one of the best teams. Okay. Jared Bednar did that same exact thing. Just throw my hands in the air. And I'm telling you guys, if Joe Sakic gets not even nominated, I will take a nomination at this point for Joe Sakic.
Yeah.
If he doesn't win it, I'd genuinely be okay with that. He should. But if he doesn't even get nominated again, conspiracy theories. We're having an entire episode on conspiracy theories. Get ready for it.
It doesn't have to do with the Denver airport.
Hey, there's some really good stories about the Denver airport, and some podcasts out there to boot all about the Denver airport. Really good. I don't know. So we'll be back. No, well, I don't know. They're playing Saturday. We'll play this thing by ear. I know I always say this when they play on the weekends, but we'll see how the weekend goes for us. If we have to wait until Monday to release the episode, we'll wait till Monday. If we can do it Saturday night, release it Sunday, we'll do that too. So, and it depends on how the game goes too. If we're not in the mood, if they play poorly again, I might need another day. So we shall see. All right, guys. But for now, it's 1-1. Well, it's not the end of the world. Let's just take a step back and say, okay, they played poorly.
Yeah.
All right. That'll be it for today. Thank you for making this your first listen of the day. That's always appreciated. Definitely check out Locked On NHL for your second listen. Get caught up on everything going on around the league for these playoffs. Until next time, he is Mr. Shaggy Von Doom, Kyle Sullivan. I am Chris Maselli, and this is the Locked On Avalanche podcast. We will see you guys later.